What's up, guys? Welcome to the Real Estate Virgins podcast, where we are here to elevate your business, take your business to the next level. We're not just agents talking the talk, we're walking the walk. We have a very special guest today, Connor Steinbrook. He has an organization of over 3,300 agents.
Yeah, right now about 3,300.
3,300 agents. We had an amazing Thanksgiving potluck party last night. Super fun. And last night is just a testament to what we're building. And I've only been a part of the Wolfpack for a year. And last night, people have just been attracted to what the Wolfpack has brought from a value proposition, and especially you, Connor. I mean, you're the godfather of the Wolfpack. So I'm so honored for you to be here.
Yeah, bro. I mean, last night was great. You're doing it right. You're building with the right principles, the morals, the values, the ethics, the foundation to build off of. That's why people are coming and excited, like what you saw last night. And what we did last night, guys, is we had a group Thanksgiving dinner. And when you build a business, you want to not look at partners as someone just in your business, but you want to look at them as friends, family, along a journey in life together, that you're fighting the adversity of life together. And that's why it's a tough thing to go through. But when you're together, it's easier to fight the battle. And so what you guys are doing is really good down here, for sure.
Yeah, and it's cool because you're nationwide. So it's not just here in Austin. It's really cool to see you traveling all over the U.S., meeting up with agents all over, bringing massive amount of value to every market, But I wanted to start off today with a little bit of a story. And yesterday, I woke up about 6 a.m. and I was getting ready to get some work done. And, I was like, oh, man, I'm going to crush it today, And I'm like, okay. So I start doing work, and my son walks in. He's 4 years old. You just met him.
Yeah.
And not going to lie, he's very distracting. But what happened is he kept asking me to put together a basketball goal, right?
Okay.
And I was like, man, I really want to work. Like right now, I feel like it's time to grind, right? And then he's continually saying, Dad, basketball goal, basketball goal, basketball goal. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, man, if I didn't build some of the things that I've built so that I could stop what I'm doing, right, and make money while I'm not working, I couldn't have told him, yes, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to build that basketball goal with you, right?
Correct.
And it's so important. I think so many people look at the short-term like commission checks, right? And so the topic I want to talk about today is long-term wealth for real estate agents.
Okay.
And the thing is that so many agents, they get their first big paycheck to them, right? That $5,000, $7,000, $15,000 paycheck.
Yeah.
But it just seems like 8 years ago when I first started, I was like, man, that's life-changing money to me. But it really wasn't.
No.
And so for me, it was like, how do I build long-term income streams? Not only that, but how do I build skills that I can manage, I can build community, and I can make money with less stress, right? So that I can actually spend time with my family. And so you are an amazing example of that because you get to travel all over the U.S. You don't even sell homes anymore.
Right.
And you've built a massive amount of success. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Well, so for a real estate agent that is, they've been grinding for a few years now, right? And they're like, man, I just feel like I'm just chasing my next paycheck, right?
And they are. Yeah.
They are, right? What would you tell them? Hey, like get out of almost the rat race, right? With the caveat of like, yes, you need to hustle, you need to have drive, you need to have purpose, but there's other ways to build long-term wealth.
Yeah. So guys, if you're just now getting into your journey in business, especially in the real estate space, there's 3 ways to create income in business and grow your net worth. And the reason why most of you guys are struggling to get to where you're trying to get to is because you're spending all your time in what's called transactional or time-traded income streams. So you have time-traded or transactional income streams. You have equity models, and then you have residual income models. So time-traded income would be wholesaling, flipping houses, selling real estate, even a 9-to-5 job. You can make $1 million a year, but as soon as your time stops, your income goes away. Meaning you could make $1 million selling houses this year, but if your last house sells and you don't do it again, you're done. Your income goes away. The wealthy play in the other 2 income streams, the equity models and the residual income models, because they play with time differently.
Say that a little slower. What was that?
So the wealthy, they play with their the way they see income in time a lot differently than we do. So they're looking for things that are time avoided. So when you're over here trading your time to create income, you can't be making a basketball hoop for your boy, right?
Yeah.
So what does an equity model do? Let's say you're buying a rental property or you're buying a couple stocks or something like that. And I say I'm driving home today, I get hit in a car wreck and I go into a coma for 12 months. Well, then I wake up. Well, if the markets had risen, what does it actually mean? It means I was sleeping, but because I put myself into an equity position before I went to sleep, while I was sleeping, that equity position expanded. So my net worth grew without my direct time allocated to make it grow. And so this is why equity positions are incredibly important. Now, residual income is the most important thing in our life to give us the life that we want because it gives us both time and money freedom. So if you're making $500,000 a year selling houses over here, you're trading all your time to do it. But if you built a rental portfolio, you built a revenue share team that's making $500,000 a year, you don't have your time into it in the same relationship over here.
Yep.
Now, so those are the three ways you can create income. So what you want to think about is use as much of your time as fast as you can to create as much income over here, time traded income, and then move this over to hold assets, equity positions, and then to build your residual income. Now, there's kind of 3 steps to creating wealth, and people mess up in a lot of these. So the first one is you have to learn how to create money, create income, make money. That's the first thing. This is where you're talking about agents get that check. What do they do with that check? This is why very few people get to wealth, because they spend all their money as fast as they can. So the second step is after you learn how to make it, you need to learn how to store it. We're not talking about saving it. We're talking about holding it, because what we're doing is we're building this up into a lump sum. We're going to save up 10, 50, 100, 150,000, 200,000 and go buy a rental or go buy multiple rentals if we're leveraging them. So what happens here usually is most people make the money and then they spend the money.
Yep.
Or they make the money and then they want to save the money. They want to save it towards retirement.
Or they make the money, then their bills start accumulating and being as much as that money is making. So they're either going to have to make more money to start saving, or they're going to have to cut expenses.
Yeah. Yeah. So for sure. And I'm going to touch back on that in a second. So first you need to learn how to make it. Then you need to learn how to store it, build it up, and then you need to put it into an asset that creates cash flow. So when you go buy a rental property or apartment complex, while you're trading your time over here, this asset's been purchased. Someone's in that property, a rental, they're paying down the loan on it for you. You're creating a monthly cash flow, and you're also getting the equity appreciation of the property over time and the equity pay down of the loan paying down. So there's a 2-sided equity expansion. And so this is really where you guys need to think about. Save every dollar in the beginning of your business and invest it later. But most people don't want to do that. They want to spend it today.
What would you say the percentage of the money that you bring in that you actually invest?
For me personally?
Yeah, personally.
Almost all of it. Honestly,
Really?
I'd probably say like outside my basic living costs, I run on pretty much red line.
Really?
So like there's an opportunity cost to having your money in different investments, but also outside of an investment, meaning money in play versus not in play. So let's say I'm giving you a 12% loan for the year as a hard money lender, and you flip one house and sell it in 4 months, but then you don't get another one for 4 months, and then you do one at the end of the year. So you did two 4-month projects, but there was a 4-month window where that money was out of play. That's really just an 8% return for that lender. So they're not having their money in play for part of the year. So there's an opportunity cost to your income that you're making by not having your dollars out there in the battlefield, creating more dollars for you. So
That's why you put most of your money in, because
sure.
it's not making money.
That's right.
If it's not.
So what I do is, let's say I have a transaction closing, or I'm going to bring in a big rev share check, or I know I'm bringing in, let's say I do some hard money loans for people. Let's say one's closing out. Let's say I know I gave John a loan and it's going to close out on the 20th. I'm trying to figure out how do I get that money from the title company to me back into play on the 21st. Because the faster I get that money back into play, the faster it's making a return on that money. So there's times when I even take my account net negative now, where I'm having to borrow money because I'm bringing in 300,000, I may deploy it that same day. I may go buy 2 rentals and buy some stocks or something like that. So I'm always trying to think, how do I get the money in play as fast as I can as once I get it? And then I'm also thinking the same thing in my mindset for the partners and people I work with. So when you're raising money for house flips and you're doing that type of stuff, if you're not keeping your lender's money in play, you get a deal at the beginning of the year and you don't have one for 6 months, do you think they're going to sit around and wait for you? They're going to go find someone else to deploy those dollars for them.
Yeah.
And then same thing with contractors. So if you have a really good contractor and you give them a house flip, and then you have 6-month window where they don't have a deal or a house to work on, they're going to go find another investor. So it's always about merging time gaps, forward thinking when you're seeing things come in and go out, and trying to keep everything jumping from the next project or money coming into the next investment.
So let's go back to the basics though. Okay. Say this agent, they just quit their job at Target, right? And they're like, man, I just got to sell some houses, right? What would you tell that agent that's just like, man, I if I get my $7,000 check, whatever, I can pay my bills, I can do this, I can do that. That's what most agents think like, I'm just gonna start living the life, right? So what would you tell that agent?
Yeah, well, first thing is I'd study your cost of living and really have a good understanding of what your cost of life is, and then I'd have and really study it. So let's say you're living off $6,000 a month, then how do I get that down to like $4,000 a month? So what I was doing was I looked at everything I was eating, and one of my biggest expenses was food, and so I went from having
same
nice like a 12-ounce steak, maybe like a 6-ounce steak, or instead of going out for a restaurant,
cooking at home,
chicken or something like that. So the first thing is your income. I had to change my thought process on this over time, which is most people are trying just to create a higher income. They're like, I want to go from 150 to 200 or 200 to 250 K a year. They're not thinking I'm making 200, but I'm spending like 100. How do I spend 50 this year? Because you can increase your net worth either side, incoming or outgoing.
That's true.
And it should be measured on both sides of the business essentially. But for the newer agents, you guys really need to understand what's coming in and what's going out. So you need to stay in business. So you need to you have to survive long enough to where you can thrive. So learn what you can survive off of, and then put everything else into personal growth and self-education, building skill sets within yourself, and then also either marketing locally or trying to find. I would also be spending part of my time and money, even if I had to pay a local mentor to shadow, but I'd be trying to find people that are active in the business locally to me, to connect with them and get in proximity with them, which is why you guys could reach out to John Michael here and even work with him. And this is kind of what we do. But get close proximity with someone. And then I'd also, on your self-development entrepreneurship journey, the first skill set I'd be really working on is communication, because communication is the most important skill set that you guys need, because every other skill set's behind that skill set. They all come with it.
It's so fire. That is so true. It is so true. There's three things I really want to expound upon what you said, right? So when you said personal development, that there's two of the three that changed my life. Personal development, one, reading books. Like I literally have right here, Magic of Thinking Big. This is a great book if you haven't read it.
Dude, I actually have that one and I haven't read it yet, but I actually have that book. I just
And then behind me, you guys can't see, but I got tons of books that I read all the time. And the thing is like when I first got into real estate, I was like, dude, there's people that have had the results already, right? Why don't I just take a shortcut, read what they had to say, and then now I can get there quicker, right? It's like common knowledge, but people don't think of it like that. And so I read as much as I could. Now, here's the problem. A lot of real estate agents, they'll get into personal development and they'll become personal development zombies, right?
That's right.
So it's like they never take actual action, right? And so right after personal development, actually immediately take action, right? If you learn something new, take action. If you learn something new, take action. And then the second thing is discipline. You were talking about how, hey, once that paycheck comes in, you got to make sure that it goes towards something, right?
Yeah.
And you almost have to like, how do I say this? Brainwash yourself, I guess. It's an instant reaction. It's not a well, you know what? I might do it next week, or I might do it the next week. It's almost like paycheck, boom, 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 every single time. Because if you don't make it a habit, then it's so easy to just like, you know what? I'm going to spend this on this other thing that actually isn't an asset. It's a liability.
And that is a habit. It's just the wrong habit. You need the right habits. So our habits and our decisions through life get us to where we're trying to get to. But so I was lost in my life in my early 20s and kind of hit rock bottom. And two things happened in my life. One, I started praying again. I brought Christ back in my life. And the other one was I fell heavily into personal education, self-growth. So I stumbled across Napoleon Hill's black and white recordings of his 17 principles of success
on YouTube, or yeah, man, I still listen to those to this day.
And I'm telling you guys, like I have them on my wall and almost every day, pretty much every day. Sometimes maybe not. I don't look at them just because I'm distracted. I'm not in my office a lot, but I read through them straight down the list just as a constant repetition reminder. And I ask myself, am I doing what I need to be doing on each of these steps?
Yeah.
And so I got heavy into personal growth, and I found a lot of online leaders that I didn't have to pay, which is important to understand. You guys have the internet. Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, Earl Nightingale, Brian Tracy, even all the way to the modern ones, PBD, Ed Miletz. But what you guys need to understand is like you're talking about, people become just addicted to the self-growth, and that's not going to create an income for you. There's the acquisition, the accumulation of knowledge, wisdom, and skill sets, but that's no value to it if it's stuck in your mind. As long as it's just held in your mind, it's just occupying part of your mind. Until you implement it and actually get a result from it, there's no value that comes back from it. So what happens is people start tracking how many books they've read instead of how many deals they've done.
Oof.
And it gets
So true.
Yeah, and it gets to where it's almost like mastermind calls a little bit, how that they're kind of turning in today, where people procrastinate by self-education. They're at least like, I don't know what to do today in my business, but if I pick up this book and I read the book all day, I'm actually doing something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of convincing themselves. The same thing with a mastermind call. People hop on, mastermind calls, and they're like, well, I'm working on my business, but while they're on the call, they're not listening, they're distracted, they're scrolling and doing all sorts of stuff. So if you guys are going to read and gain information, do it with one intent, which is to implement what you gained. If not, don't even waste the time, because you're just wasting time at that point.
Yeah, well, there's that acronym that Suman brought up a few months ago, and it was BEAR, the BEAR method. And and the thing is, and we'll talk about the BEAR method, but personal development really helped my self-belief, right? And so I could believe in myself. And the first letter in BEAR is B, which is for belief, right? And so once you start believing in yourself, it starts giving you E, which is energy. And then once you have energy, you go take action, which is A in BEAR, right? And then R is repeat, right? So once you build that belief, you have more energy, you have more action, right? But if you don't have energy, then you can't take action. And if you don't have belief, then you can't have energy, right?
Yeah.
And so you remove any of those, and then unfortunately you have to go back to the beginning and start with belief, which is personal development, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy you brought that up, because I've been teaching something for years that I just kind of did. I don't know, maybe I read that at some point, or I don't even remember it, because I've been teaching something, and I've done it on the calls where I put 5 circles in a row and I put the fourth one action, which is where most people just say, go take action, but you don't know why you can't make the phone call or do the things you need to do. And so in the order of them, I work them back in the training. What's before action is energy. Now, how do we have energy? The body just doesn't move. We're not just going to go pick up the phone, call people, unless, what do we have before that? Which is belief. But I separate the belief into 2 spots here. So there's 2 boxes. So there's 5 circles on the left. On the farthest, or the second one from the left, which is before energy, is the belief in the vehicle. So you could be selling houses. You could be, starting a restaurant. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing is your vehicle to your future, and the goals you're trying to achieve, and the net worth, and how you're going to have the future that you want. So if you don't believe what you're doing, if you don't believe the insurance industry is the best thing for you, if you don't fully believe in what you're doing, it's never going to work out. You're never going to fully commit to it. Now, let's say John fully believes what he's doing is the 100%, without doubt, it's the right thing to do. The first circle is self-esteem, self-image, and personal belief systems. And do you believe in yourself, which is what you're just talking about. If you believe in what you're doing, but you don't believe in yourself, as soon as the thing that you're doing gets tough, you're going to sit down. You're going to self-doubt, I can't do this, and you're going to talk yourself out of it. So it's once you fully have a belief in yourself that you can do something and achieve through adversity, and then you believe in what you're doing at the same time, those 2 create that energy, which creates the action. And then at the end, instead of an R for repeat, I have R for results. So it's personal self-image, belief in the vehicle creates the energy, the action, and the results.
The R might be results too, actually.
That's what's kind of crazy. I'm like, maybe I just, maybe I read it in a book years ago or something, and it was just unconscious that, because when I created that, I just kind of put in a line, but it's also, it just is how it is. Does that make sense? And other people discover the same pattern. It's not like I'm special, or whoever's created that special. It's just, they realize that's how it's done. You have to start from your personal belief system and the belief in what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to have energy. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to feel low with your low energy levels. Your creative thought processes are going to be down. You're quick to get frustrated and have negative emotional patterns when things aren't going right in business. But when you truly believe that this is going to work, all those short-term nuances, the risk and headaches and problems, they're just stepping stones that you just push past through, instead of things that cause you to quit and step away from your goals.
Yeah. What would you tell somebody that doesn't believe in themselves?
It's a good question. First thing is, I'd say, what do you want in life? And then find out where are they trying to go? And then where did you think that you lost your belief system? And I'd try to find out who they are and go back into find out how they grew up first off. So every person's a little bit different, so you can't motivate everybody the same way.
Yeah.
So anytime someone has a problem, you just want to try to diagnose where it's coming from. So like if you go talk to like a psychiatrist or something, they're going to take you to your childhood. Usually what happens is somewhere in grade school or someone through a personal relationship, parents, grandparents, someone, aunts and uncles, they gave you a reason to not believe in yourself. We were talking about this last night actually with kids that grew up with good parents that speak belief in them. You deserve to be successful. God loves you. You're good. You're positive words spoken over them. Then you have some kids that grow up in families that are negative environments. No one's speaking good over them, so they don't have that belief system.
Yeah.
So the first thing is you need to start speaking belief over them, because if they don't have it internally, the only way it's going to come across them is externally. And if the people around them aren't doing it already, that's your job.
Yeah.
So you can come in. This could be a girlfriend, a new friend, or something, but tell them good things about themselves. Help them see the light, and help them also understand you're probably not where you want to be right now, John, and that's okay. But I know you can be here. I know you can improve to here. This is what personal growth does. And so a lot of times people are like, I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I can't do it. Of course you can't. Not right now. Like, let's say I go to the gym and I can't lift 300 pounds. I could get there by working up and doing the small incremental repetition tasks over and over and over.
Yeah.
So you help them understand you may not be where you want to be today, but you could be where you want to be tomorrow, and you give them the path to do so, which is the path of personal growth. When you really look at like how a lot of mentors have helped people along the way, and then along that journey as the adversity kicks in, you don't let them quit on themselves. You build the belief. You help them understand what they're going through is normal, and then you speak positive words to the wind behind them, push them forward.
Yeah. I remember about 4 years ago, I was going through a really hard time. We just lost a family member that was living with us. She was going through cancer. We lost my dog. We lost a bunch of stuff. It was just a horrible, horrible time of my life. I remember walking into the house, and it felt like I was walking into a black cloud. Like, it was insane, right? And then I remembered, I was like, I read something somewhere. It was like, when you feel like you're at the lowest of low, go and do something nice from someone else, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so what I did was, we started collecting food and dinner for other people, and it started changing who I was. This was only 4 years ago, right? It started changing who I was, and it started making a positive impact on my community in the city that you're in right now, right? Mm-hmm. And what I realized is that when you don't believe in yourself in the same aspect, start talking good about other people.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you start talking good about other people and pointing out the good things in other people, you might open up your reticular activating system to see the good things that you're doing, right? And so it's very interesting to where if you just start pointing, and twofold, it's not only lifting up other people, but it's also opening your mind to the things that you are doing good.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And and that's a good point to bring up, because anytime you do something that's your natural reflective thought back on yourself, that's just an internal thought, which is, that was a good thing to do, or I'm a good person. Not because you're trying to pump yourself up, but let's say you go do something just like organically. You didn't go out to do something today, and then like someone like your neighbor needs some help, and you go do something, spend time doing it that you really didn't have the time at the time, but you did the right thing. Yeah. Well, what happens after that is you're going to have a reflective thought. Either you could even maybe have it consciously where you are aware of it, or it's unconsciously you're saying, I'm a good person. I did a good thing. And the more you do things that have the reflective thoughts after that action, that I'm doing the good thing, I'm a good person, you start to believe it.
You start building this belief over a long period of time, and that belief grows.
That's right. And it's easy to build the belief because you're not lying to yourself. You're living in truth.
That's so true.
You just did a good thing. So, but if you're going to go puncture your neighbor's tires or something, you're never going to tell yourself you're a good person and believe it after that. So you have to do a good thing and then actually believe that you did it, and then did it with the good heart and the right mindset. But the more we do good for others, the more the energy comes back to us in this world. So this is a world of shared consciousness. So we all live in our internal thoughts, but we also share an external world, and the way that we communicate with each other is through transfer of energy, through audio, which you guys are hearing right now, touch, taste, sound. And so we're all connected. And so the more that we do things for others to make their life better, and the more we can improve our communities and others around us, the better we feel inside. And the better we feel, the more we want to do it. So it's a cycle and a loop but also when people are bad to you and negative to you, you don't want to be around them. Yeah. And so it's a choice. We all get to choose how we act and what we do as far as our attitude towards the world, and who we be around and how we communicate with them. So if you guys get in the habit of speaking good things and doing good things around, just naturally your life's going to improve.
I think that's why it's such a good feeling to be a part of the Wolf Pack because we're building a culture like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
And there's this story. You may have actually shared it, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not, but
we'll find out.
we'll find out. There's so many real estate agents that feel like they're on this lonely island and it's just themselves, right? And they're quite literally burning out. And there's this story of this guy who was going to church and he stopped going to church. And the pastor, one day after the service that he didn't attend, that the guy didn't attend, he goes by his house, knocks on the door, and it's in the winter. And the pastor goes, "Hey, you know, I'm just checking in on you. I hope you're doing okay." And the guy opens the door and says, "Yeah, I'm doing good. You know, I don't really need church, right? Like I'm good by myself, right?" And so they're sitting in the living room, and as he says that, right, the pastor starts taking one coal out and he puts it in the middle of the room, right? One coal out of the fireplace and puts it in the middle of the room, right? Okay. And while they're talking and saying, and he's saying, I don't really need to be at the church or in this group or in this organization around people that are lifting me up. I can do it myself. That coal starts slowly burning out, right? And he was like, just like this coal is burning out, if we put it back into the fire, the flames get higher, right? And so a lot of people are those burning out coals, and they're not in a group like the Wolf Pack because they're not around the right people. Like you said, the mentors, the people that you surround yourself with will correlate with your results.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's interesting you bring that up because it's not just real estate agents and not just entrepreneurs in general. It's just the nature of humanity and people. We, no matter what, we're the only one that lives in our mind. So we're the only one that hears every thought that comes to our mind. So we're always isolated. No matter if you have a wife that you love and she loves you and you both love each other and you have a family that you're all connected to and close friends, still at night, if she's asleep, you're alone in your own mind. So ultimately, life is a solitude thing that we live inside our own internal thought process, but we have the shared external world. That's why it's so important. And so we need to be around the right people with the right energy. So if you have a group of, let's say, 20, 30 agents like we had, it was probably like 30, 40 last time.
That was 34, yeah.
Yeah, and so let's say good days and bad days, cycles and patterns come throughout life. Let's say today I'm in the worst mood. I have all sorts of bad things happening, personal health issues, relationship issues, and I'm in a negative mindset. Well, if I'm around other people that are positive that day, and it's a good day for John, he can help me speak good things to me and kind of help me out of it. And I can be pulled towards the higher energy and get out of my phone. And then let's say 2 weeks goes forward now, and then it's your turn. You're in a bad state. It's a horrible day, but I'm not. Then I can help bring that energy back. And this is what a family does in general. But in business, especially if you're going to build a team like we do, you want to operate like family. And so not everybody's going to be on the same up and downs throughout the year. And there's going to be all sorts of people fluctuating through struggles and problems and things like that. So when you have everybody collective there, like a wolf pack, somebody's going to be able to help them at that moment or step in and cover activities that they couldn't do or something like that, or even step in and take care of their, their family, like all sorts of things you can do to help each other. But if you're on your own, you're looking around, who's going to come in? Who's going to give you the positive voice? Who's going to pull you out of that dark moment? There's no one there to come in and give you the direction out of it, essentially. Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of people end up getting really lost and going to suicide and all that type of stuff because they're so isolated and nobody knows how bad they're actually struggling.
Yeah. So we're at the end of 2024, and there's been a lot of changes in the market recently.
Just a few.
And I believe some of those agents that haven't made the decision to surround themselves with people that not only have results, but selfishly bring up others around them, they're going to be left to the wayside, I will say, And so one thing that I'm preparing for is a rock solid 2025 and a rock solid 2026, right? Yeah. And so I'm so excited to be in our organization because we're getting ready, right? Yeah. It's go time. Ramping up. If you are still a real estate agent right now and you made it within the last 2 years, you're good to go because it was tough.
It's tough. It's 2024. They're saying on record was worst year in the industry in 35 years.
35 years.
So if you guys even made it survive this year, whether, I mean, especially if you made an income this year, it's got to be better than last year, right? So we're coming off of a trough year. So these are called character making years, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we need to go through like mass adversity and, really go up against it. It makes us reflect on ourselves a little bit more and also the things that we're doing in our businesses. But no storm lasts forever. And so when we're going through these tough years, you're always going to come back into another positive up cycle. Yeah. But I think we're getting ready to move into probably the next up cycle for sure.
Yeah. And if you're not in the right environment, you're not going to take maximum potential. You're not going to hit your maximum potential, in my opinion. So that's why I'm excited. These next few years are going to be really good. And so let's get back onto long-term wealth. We've been sort of rabbit holing everywhere, but this is amazing conversation. I remember when so I was about 3 years into real estate, and I started, actually 4 years into real estate, I started flipping houses. Okay. And it was really cool. I made a lot of money. But what's interesting is that within time, there's certain things that you can do to maximize your profits, right? So in other words, at that time, I probably should have been buying and holding like you do yourself, but I was flipping. But flipping worked for me because I needed that cash for other life events, right? And so right now, I believe we're, in my opinion, right before a takeoff. Yeah. So what do you think agents should be doing right now?
Ramping up for sure, building your work ethic and increasing the hours. So like a lot of times in tough markets that we've been in, people just part of their natural results are going down because also they're overwhelmed with what they're seeing and their fear and uncertainty. So they naturally retract their output, meaning the hours they're working, which starts increasing their negative results, and then they work less even more so. So what a lot of people need to be doing is building. So the only way you can get out of a plateau or a rut is to increase the energy, increase the output. So you either increase the output of the energy, knowing the same skill sets, knowledge, and wisdom that you have, and start applying that at a higher rate, or you increase your energy and also increase the skill sets and knowledge and understanding. Yeah. So you can either increase your energy level, increase the things that you know, and build new skill sets, and then also change your environment. Yeah. Work with new people, have other people around you. Yeah. And that's where, so those are really all you can do. Change the relationships and experiences, the people that are around you in proximity. Yeah. Increase the hours that you work, meaning your work ethic and work level, or change your skill sets and understanding. And I'd be working on all of those. So I'd be working on a legitimate path for what skill sets you guys need, self-reflect and say, where am I lacking, and be brutally honest with yourself and set a goal to acquire these skill sets early in the year. And then I'd also be looking at and do a real analyze yourself deeply and say, how much was I really putting an effort in? Was I giving it my all? Yeah. And most people are going to say, no, I was definitely not giving my all. And then find new people in your life and get around them. Yeah.
Something you said earlier that I want to talk about is the importance of becoming really good at conversations. And I realized that, looking back, after you said that, there's really two things that have helped make me a lot of money. And it's conversations and getting better at them. And then two, relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And those sort of go hand in hand, because if you can't have a conversation, you can't really have a relationship, Yeah. So back when I first started in real estate, I remember getting nervous and talking to clients, and I didn't even know what to say, right? But over the years, it was just almost automatic. It was what's the time frame you're looking to purchase a home, right? Or what's most important to you when buying a house, right? And so it almost became automatic when I started talking to clients. So I could answer the call and not even think twice, right? Yep. And so there's a really good book called What to Say, Real Estate Edition. And so that's a really good book I'd love to recommend to you guys. And that's really helped me. And so one of the recommendations on there is it's a simple trick, right? But it's instead of pretty much avoiding confrontation, but getting a result, is saying, hey, what are your thoughts on doing a price reduction if we don't get blah, 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 right? Sure. Instead of saying, hey, I think we need to do a price reduction in 2 weeks, right? Yeah. You're saying, hey, what are your thoughts, right? And so you start getting their thoughts on it, and then you start funneling them to the result that you want.
For sure, yeah.
And so there's a ton of conversation tricks. That's a great book, by the way. You need to go check it out. But conversations are definitely a moneymaker.
Oh, for sure, especially in a business like this. So I forget who it was a while ago, and someone asked me, what am I doing? How am I creating the income that I have? And I said, I speak a lot. I talk a lot. I use my words a lot.
Yeah.
And so essentially I built this entire business, not by using my physical body, meaning like putting something together, or have any powerful systems or tools, but just simply talking to agents, conveying a message to them, and building that relationship and the connection. Yeah. So to kind of go back to why communication should be the main skill set you guys focus on, most people don't even think about it as a skill set, is when I got into real estate investing, which is how I got into the industry, I was the first skill set I focused on was marketing. So I was trying to figure out how to generate deals because I thought that was where my money came from. So I started spending a bunch of money on different marketing channels, and one of them was direct mail. And I remember spending like $10,000, $15,000 and not getting a single deal. But when I was getting those phone calls coming in, just like he was saying, he was getting lost in his words. I would be on a phone call and literally like be in the middle of it all tongue tied. And I would hang up and just embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, I hate myself, I'm struggling. And so that's one of the ways I went into debt, was because I kept trying to spend money generating leads, but I had not practiced communication skill sets. So I couldn't take the phone call to a contract and get the deal.
I think a lot of people do that. Like, they'll take our advice when it comes to lead generating, but they can't convert because they can't have the conversation.
Right. For sure. And I can tell you that I've closed many deals where I've gotten the homeowner to accept an offer where I'm paying them less money than some other competitor that's offering more money. So why would someone take less money? That's because of the communication process. And also you talked about relationships.
Have we done any Wolfpack calls on conversation and
yeah, we've done some.
Yeah, communication.
We can do one here soon.
I feel like we need to.
Yeah. And but it's about so he used the word building relationships earlier. I'm going to use a different word, but is synonymous with it, which is emotional intelligence or emotional awareness. And so you need to understand people and how they make decisions and who they are, and if they're in good moods or bad moods and things like that. So like if I'm going to sit down with a client or seller, I need to be able to relate to them. I need to be able to build rapport. I need to understand if I'm pushing too hard or not pushing hard enough. I need to understand if I'm offending them, or I need to match their energy. So communication is not just done with your words. It's done with your body, like you see as body language.
So true.
But it's also done with the energy transference, which is, people would call that tonality or the emotion in the voice. And so sometimes you can say the right thing, but you didn't say it with the right energy or emotion in it. And so a lot of sales and conversion comes from how you can convey your belief in what you're doing. For example, if you want someone to join you, you have to believe in what you're doing. If they don't believe you believe in the Wolfpack or believe in what you're doing, or if the seller doesn't believe that you can get their house sold for the top price, they're not going to go with you. They're going to go with the agent that gave them the highest feeling of belief that person's going to be able to do what they said they're going to do. So they're not buying off of actions or activity, what they know you can do. They're buying off what they believe could be done, or what they believe you can do, or what they believe can happen if they work with you. So it's always a belief issue. And so that's what we're really selling when we're sitting with the client is, do they believe that the product, service, or opportunity, or the person that they're going to hire is going to solve the problem that they have today?
Yeah. And I think like with those conversations, especially as a real estate agent, people are hiring you because they trust you and they believe in you, right? For sure. And so for me, I realized that the quicker I can build rapport and break down that wall of distrust, the quicker that they'll hire me, right? And so one trick that I've done over the years, I realized that this is a trick to build trust quickly, is actually a self-deprecating strategy. And it sounds funny, right? But it's basically like, yeah, man, I'll tell them something that might not be that great about me, right? And it almost makes them feel like I'm not a robot. I'm not like everyone else, right? Yeah. And so I'll find a point in the conversation where I'll say, yeah, man, actually, I grew up in a trailer on welfare, but now over the last 8 years, I've been able to sell over $100 million in real estate, and I've been able to do this, and that, right? And so what in their head, it's like, dang, this is not just like everyone else that's like, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, right?
Nothing's going to go wrong. It's going to,
exactly. And so it breaks down that wall of distrust, and it builds rapport in this relationship just because I'm telling them something that it might be an oddity, like I was in a metal band for 8 years, right? Or something that's different than everybody else. And it's interesting because I can build relationships quicker because I'm not acting like I'm perfect or I'm a robot.
Well, it's the humanization process. And yes, like you're robot. Yeah, that's exactly right. You're coming in and you're saying I can make mistakes too, but I also have success. So and then also kind of go back on like the belief systems and why you're trying, like why that all works. Think about like once you have a listing, and you do a good job and you sell it, let's say that you were going to get it for 500, you sell it for 520 or something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen when they want their next deal? Well, if you did a good job and performed and did exactly what they said, is it hard for them to believe that you can do it again? That's why they rehire you.
Yep.
So, but let's look at someone that got that deal done and sold it for a little bit more, but they hated the person and there was no emotional relationship attachment, and they may start convincing themselves they can find someone else that can do the same job. So it's not just can you perform in the right way, meaning can you get the job done, but also do it in a way that the people that you're working with want to continue to work with you going forward. Yeah. And that's where the long-term businesses are built, through referrals. And nobody's going to refer you business unless they trust that the person that they're going to refer to you handles what they need to do.
Yeah. So it comes all down to trust, right? Like, how do you build trust? That's the question. And so for me, I'm all of these things are coming to my head right now, right? And what I'm realizing is like, for example, starting a nonprofit, I have a big dads group of about 3,200 dads, right? And so I'm realizing the reason why I get so much business from that dads group is because I built so much trust by doing things outside of real estate, right? Sure. So it's like, hey, we're going to go raise 850 steak dinners for the community, right? Hey guys, we're going to go collect toys for Christmas, right? And so all these guys are starting to build these, this trust with me, right? And so they align that with like, oh, hey, I need to sell a house. I automatically trust him, right?
That's right.
And I'm not doing it for that, but in their minds, it's like, hey, I trust him because he's legitimately cares.
100%. And I've seen this happen in so many different ways. Like I know someone that is crushing it, doing tens of millions, that ran a gym. And they were a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they got their license, the people started, and they were high ticket prices. Like wealthy people were hiring. And
that's crazy because like from trainer to selling houses, like it's a big difference.
It's a big difference. But then on the backside of how we understand how life works with relationships and trust like this, they're like saying, I trust this person to help me with my most important thing, which is my body. And I'm trusting them in this area of my life, and they've done good by me here. Now, if they have not done good, it doesn't matter. But if they have done good and they've developed that trust, then they trust them in other areas of their life. And so the way to build trust is to do, let's say I get in a relationship with John for the first time. We have a time horizon going forward, and I have to do things incrementally, small steps over time to strengthen that relationship and build that relationship. But it's consistently doing things that do not build distrust and make someone start to not. Yes. And so if you can constantly, why that girl leave the house when, you drove home? So it's like, your wife might trust, like that type of stuff. If you're doing, or, you get caught lying to people, these things build distrust. Mm-hmm. And so if you live in truth and you're always doing the right thing and genuinely trying to build it over time, as long as you take small incremental steps, people's barriers drop down. This is why, like when you start dating someone like your wife or some of you guys that got married, in the beginning, still kind of trying to figure this person out. Yeah. And then as time went by and both parties constantly did things that built trust and didn't build distrust, the relationship strengthened. Yeah. But then if one or two, especially if both, but even if one starts going the other direction, starts doing things where one can't trust them, that's the crack in the windshield. There's fragmentation and it starts to build off and go the wrong direction. Yeah.
One of the best strategies for building a massive amount of wealth, and not many people think about this, is integrity.
Oh, for sure.
Because if you do what you say you're going to do over a long period of time, people build trust in their mind and they don't want to hire anyone else because they know you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
100%. And that's also how you build a strong self-image, because it's not just the integrity that you're building with others, but your self-image and your self-belief system is your relationship with yourself, the integrity you carry with yourself. So if I say let's say like John asked me to come over here and do a podcast. I'm like, I'm coming over at 11, and then I don't pick up my phone till 4 and I don't show up. For one, is he going to want to stay committed and trust, because he can't trust me now? And then can I trust myself? Yeah. And if I'm not doing the things that I say that I'm going to do, and I'm wanting to do these, I'm setting a goal to do these, and then I end up not doing them, I start to degrade and erode down that relationship I have. I start to lose trust in myself, and that's where people have broken belief systems. So if you want to build your belief system up and start doing things that you can do that are increasingly difficult over time, but always hit the target. So if the goal is to go to the gym 5 days this week, better go 5 days, because if you go 3, you're going to start destroying your self-image. But if you go 6, you're going to build it. So go the extra mile, go a little bit more. So when we render more services than we need to, that's when we start to believe that we can do more and be more, and also other people see that. So when people see my dad would always just train me. I say train. That's how you raise a kid. I guess
Yeah,
train.
yeah.
But he would always make me first to the practice field and last one off the field. And it was just, these are the things that my dad instilled upon me at an early age. Also, just to never quit, to never get caught up in short-term emotions for a long-term goal and things like that. But yeah, it's important. All these things get tied hand in hand together.
They do.
Yeah.
This is a fire episode.
Yeah, it's like
I mean, there's really not much I can say after that. I will say, I 100% agree with you. If you, the opposite of building confidence is not doing what you say you're going to do and defeating your confidence, right? You're literally breaking down your image of yourself because you can't do what you said you were going to do, right? And so over a long period of time, if you say you're going to be somewhere or you're going to wake up at 6 a.m. and you wake up at 9:30 a.m., you're not doing what you're saying you're going to do. You're never going to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So I created a term called the deservedness moment. It's the moment of belief that it happened for me and I've seen it happen for others. So like when I got into investing heavily in real estate, I got about $100,000 debt right off the bat because I made a bunch of bad decisions and had partners steal from me. And so I was like, what's the fastest way to get out of this? Is I'm going to work. I set a goal to work 1,000 days straight, work every day, all day. And so it was a big goal. But after the first week I did it, I said, okay, I just did it 7 days straight, all day, every day. So I know I can do it. So I started doing it for 2 weeks and then for 4 weeks, and I went for a whole month and I worked every day. And so, and because I was trying to survive, I was literally going bankrupt. And so after I did that for 2 months, now I believe I can do it again because I just did it for 2 months straight. I know I can do it again. I did it for 4 months, but it was around like 7, 8, 9 months in, somewhere around that time where I'd worked every day for 3/4 of a year, and I remember vividly saying, "Nobody's doing this. Like nobody's this nuts to literally put it all on the line, put every day, all day." And I started, and I convinced myself I deserved to be successful more than others around me because I knew that it wasn't a question of, I knew for a fact I was doing more than everybody else. So I said, in the world, if someone were to be successful, wouldn't it be the one that was doing more than everybody else? And so it was a moment where, and you've seen this with like David Goggins type of people and their approach in life, which is just showing up, going through sacrifice, going massive over the extra mile.
Yeah.
And that's why their self-image is so high and their belief system is high, because once you've run a 100-mile race with a broken leg and gone through all the adversity that he has, he knows nobody else is going to do that. Yep. And so it's not about being arrogant or anything like that, but you internally say, I know I'm essentially better than my competitors at this because they didn't run 100 miles. Some people won't even go run a mile. So he knows when he steps on the field of competition, which is what business is, he believes he's the best person. He believes he should get the shot at the end of the game. So you take champions like a Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, they want the shot at the end of the game. It's because they've taken more shots throughout their life. They believe that they're the best person to take that shot at the end of the game. They truly believe it.
Yep.
And other people around them watched them do that. They know, because Kobe would get up like 4 or 5 and shoot 600 shots a day or something like that. Not everybody's doing that. Yeah. But he does that not just to keep his skill sets home, but to keep his mindset sharp, because he knows he's doing things others are not, so he deserves to have opportunities that others won't.
Yeah. I mean, for example, if you wake up 1 hour earlier, that's 31 hours extra a month. That's a whole basically work week of extra time that you can put in that will put you ahead of the game, of everyone else.
So you start to respect yourself.
You start to respect yourself. Yeah.
So like, everybody else is not shooting maybe 100 shots a day and you're shooting 600. You start saying like, I'm bad at it. Like, I respect myself. And that's how you build your self-image. And as your self-image grows, you start to believe you can do other things, and then you'll take more risk. And when you take more risks, success comes on the backside of it. So that's another thing. You guys are young in the business. You need to take risks. You need to take risks with your time, with your relationships, with your emotions, with your money, and everything you want's on the backside of sacrifice and risk.
Yeah. We're going into 2025, and the word that I'm going to stick to for 2025 is discipline, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like every single decision I make, I'm going to attach the word discipline to, right? And so it's like, should I buy that Almond Joy? Discipline? No, I won't, right? Should I wake up at XYZ? Discipline? Yes, I will. I'll wake up that early, right? So for me, 2025 is going to be the word discipline. And so for me, it's just like in every single decision, we make so many decisions throughout the day. And so, that goes back to, personal development. Am I going to make the decision to, spend 30 minutes to be on, or 45 minutes to an hour to be on that Tuesday morning call, right?
Yep.
Because it's going to benefit me over the long term. Maybe I could be, playing video games or being on Facebook scrolling or on TikTok scrolling, but no, I'm going to make the decision to be disciplined and get on that call.
Oh, for sure. And it's important. And discipline comes with the decision, the mindset before the current action happens. So he's sitting there, saying, I know ahead of time I'm showing up to this call no matter what. Yeah. So same thing like back when I was really getting off the ground, speaking at like local events and things like that. And sometimes people wouldn't do a good job of filling the events. And I get there and there'd be like, 1 or 2 people there.
Oh, no.
And I knew ahead of time going into this that I'm going to do the best I can no matter who shows up. If there's 1,000 people there, if there's one person in the crowd, I'm going to do the best I can to deliver that speech as if there's a million people in the crowd. Yeah. And so like I remember like having agents come into the group and they're trying to run like lunch and learns and no one would show up. And I remember one of them, they were trying to do lunch and learn, and he calls me. He's like, nobody showed up. And I was like, good, do the speech anyways. He's like, nobody's here. I was like, then do the speech anyways. Like, speak in front, do what you intended to do anyways, because that was what you were going to do. It doesn't matter if they're there or not. Yeah. It matters that you intended to go and do this. And so it's a discipline of your actions, but it's all decided upon ahead of time. Discipline is a front-facing thought process, which is, I know what I need to do, I know what I'm going to do, and then I'm actually going to go do it.
I remember back when I was like 18 years old, I was in a heavy metal band.
Yeah.
And we got invited for a paid gig to play in Houston, Texas. And we show up and nobody's there. And the promoter's like, if y'all still want to play, y'all can play. And we were like, you know what? We committed to it.
Not?
Why not? So we're out there playing with 2 girlfriends of ours in the crowd, right? And we're going hard. We're like playing the best that we can in front of two people, and that's our girlfriends, right? And I remember getting off the stage, and nobody was still there except the bartender in the back. And the promoter came up to us and said, "Hey, I'm gonna actually pay you 3 times as much as I told you I was gonna pay you because you guys were amazing." Nice. And I was like, "Dang, even though nobody heard us except for the promoter, like we actually had a better result." Because we still went hard with nobody there.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if nobody heard you. It matters that you know what you did. And so like to give an analogy, like the guy that I told to go do a speech with my partners, if I asked him afterwards, like, do you feel worse or lesser of yourself? Or do you feel like you feel better? Do you respect yourself for doing what you just did? Because he could leave an hour early and just go home.
Yeah.
But when you do something like that, you're not just trying to convince yourself or trick yourself. You know that you're really intentful about what you're trying to do, and that you're going through the motions in the correct way. Yeah. And so you're going to build that respect with yourself. And also you can still see how much emotion he showed and just laughing and telling that story. So he could have left. They could have left and just walked away.
Yeah.
But they went ahead and did it anyways. And that's
some of our best shows actually were, hey, should we play this show? And then we end up playing it. And it was like, actually, this was pretty awesome. You know? We showed up in Yuma, Arizona, and this venue was like, it was like an Adobe, like it seemed like it was built with mud, but it could hold about 100 people. It was really interesting. And so many people showed up. We were about to literally drive off, and they're like, no, please stay, please stay. And we're like, okay, we'll go ahead and stay.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys are going to be out there in, like the public eye, and you're going to be in a band, or you're going to be a public speaker, you're going to be a trainer, like you're going to have times when nobody shows up.
Yep.
And probably, especially when you're getting going, like not a lot of people show up. But if you do the right thing when small crowds show up, eventually people will see this person's doing the right thing, and you'll get in front of a little bit bigger crowd, 50 to 100. And then down the road, 500. And then eventually you see these people on stage that speak in front of 10,000 people, but it all started out here. So even if you go back and how Tony Robbins got off the ground, he was working one-on-one people in like hotel rooms and things like that, and going in. And so it starts out small. So don't get frustrated, guys, but also do the best you can no matter what you're doing. And so if nobody's showing up, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that take your heart out. It's a test. I believe it's a test.
It's a test. Yeah.
To see if we tuck our tail and go.
Do you really want this? God's saying, do you really want this? Because if you really want it, you're going to do it again, and there's only going to be one person next time instead of nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think God works that way. I think He tests us all the time to see how we're going to respond to things, because let's say, there's only so many people in the world, and there's only so many positions that people are trying to achieve at the top of different industries. And if you're the promoter of, mankind. Essentially, are you going to promote the people that are lazy, entitled, don't show up, don't do the things they know they do, undercut their part, like do all this stuff? Or are you going to promote the people that are consistent, disciplined, show up with a positive attitude even when adversity kicks in? God's going to promote, in my opinion, the people that he wants to push forward his, his goals here in the world. And if you're going opposite side of, what's good for others and what's, you're going to have a struggle getting to where you're trying to get to. And even if you get ahead in life, I've seen this happen with people that did it the wrong way. Something happens where they always get brought back down, so there's some karma that brings it back down.
I want to talk about that actually very briefly, but
Yeah.
I realized, at 1 year, I think it was 2022, I made the most money I've ever made in my life. No, 2021, I made the most money I've made in my life, right? And then 2022 happened, I didn't make as much money, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, God, like, dude, why didn't you let me make as much money as last year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then what I realized is I feel like God gave me as much as I could handle, and I wasn't a good steward of that money, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm realizing now is like I need to be faithful over little to be a ruler over much,
Oh, for
right?
sure.
And so although I've gotten blessed a lot, I really wasn't a good steward of that money, And so now, and he's not going to reward you with more if you're not a good steward with a little amount, right?
Oh, for sure.
And so that's why I'm just so much more appreciative, not only appreciative, but a better steward, right? So like where is that money going to? How much is that money making? Am I setting aside for good causes as well, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to Suman. Actually, probably shouldn't have said his name, but he was saying that he makes it automatic. He's like, is 10% of this going towards,
tithing.
church tithing? And he made it a habit, like we were talking about earlier. And he said he's never been let down.
Yeah.
And so,
I bought a lot of stuff with the money I've made over the years, cars, toys, jewelry, and all the stuff that people think they want. But it's when you're doing things for people that need it and you're making an impact, this is when you feel inside the best version of you. Yeah. So I think people just think that if they hoard it and keep it all to themselves, they're gonna be happier. But I've seen a lot of successful people in life because my dad ran a nonprofit for 35 years and helped a lot of successful people. And the ones that do good with their money in the second half of their life are the most genuine, happy, excited people. And they're not spending their money on themselves. They're spending it on others. They're doing things for their community and things
and that's
like
really backwards thinking for probably 99% of the world.
that. Oh yeah. People, they want to keep it to themselves, right? And to go back to what you talked about before, I've brought this up numerous times on calls, maybe even been on one where I say something like, where if you have 10 agents and the agents are complaining and whining and you can't handle it, well, what you're saying is, God, I can't handle 10, but I want 1,000.
So true.
It's like,
That's so true.
Let's go to 7 first before we go to 1,000. You can't handle the 10. So no matter what the adversity, guys, and so I just realized this, it doesn't matter if John's watching me or you guys are watching me, but if I'm alone in my car, God's still watching me. And I believe that if I'm handling myself in a way that's not honorable and, that I think about, would you promote someone as a person? Would I promote John? Like if I knew how you're acting, well, then how are you acting behind the scenes?
Well, being a good steward goes back to what we were talking about earlier is having integrity, right?
Yeah.
And doing what you say you're going to do and then making those habits to make sure you're making the right decisions, right?
Yes.
Man, this is a great podcast.
and also I had to go down a process because we all have a forward facing life when we're in front of people, but then we also have our behind the scenes life. And so a question that I used to ask myself is all the time, if I knew everything that I do behind the scenes that nobody else knows that I do, would I still follow myself? And
oh my God.
and so and then if the answer is no, why would anybody else follow you? And I'm not saying I don't have flaws and I don't make mistakes. And trust me, guys, we all have something we're battling, which is also important to understand that no matter how everything looks on the surface, every person in this world is battling something behind the scenes. So be kind and be respectful. But if you are doing things that you don't respect yourself behind the scenes, you're constantly sleeping around, you're doing these types of things, you won't respect yourself. And it will, even though it's not known out there, it could be later, it will reflect from the energy and just the way that you bring yourself forward in life. And it's just not going to work.
It will correlate with every aspect of your life. And you're wondering, why is my why am I not getting the same results, or why are people not wanting to talk to me, or why aren't people not wanting to be a part of my team, and why are people not hiring me anymore? It's because of that one thing that you weren't being disciplined on or having integrity in.
Yes, and then the first thing they do is when things start to go bad around them is they blame external things around them. They blame the brokerage or their partners or God, government, is the bird outside, is the wind, anything that's not their own fault. So if things are not going the way you want, guys, you have to understand it's because you're doing something wrong throughout the past few years of your life. You made the wrong decisions, you're in the wrong environments or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's easy to scapegoat, but it's when you take internal blame. So like when
take internal accountability too. Yeah.
So I didn't get tell my background, but I was one of the top online poker players for almost a decade, and when it disappeared and I went broke and had to move back home with my parents, I blamed God, government, poker sites, and all this type of stuff. But the reason why I went broke was not because the poker sites went away. It was not because of all this. It's because I made the wrong decisions and didn't invest that money or turn it into another business. So it's so easy for me at that time in my 20s to blame everything around me, when the reality is I could have done different with the things that I had. Instead, I was blowing it, going partying with friends and stuff like that. Yeah. And so the thing when we're blaming our spouse or our friend or a partner or whatever we're doing is it gives the power to that external environment. And then in order for you to have a change in your life, you have to expect that thing around you that you're blaming is going to change. But that's not going to change. People around you are not going to change. The industry is not going to change. All this is around you is not going to change. You don't have the ability to change it. But if you take full blame on your shoulders, now you have the ability to change it, because if it's my fault, I can make a change to fix that going forward. But if it's their fault, I'm giving up control to something that I don't know if it could change, it could not change, we don't know. So first thing is personal accountability, internal blame. Just take blame for everything. Yeah. And so even great leaders, what they'll do is, there's a mess up on the calls. We had one of our calls that didn't go, and it just happens in business, but it wasn't my fault, but I took blame for it, even though. So that's where I'm even if it's not my fault, I'm going to take blame for it, because then I can have.
Well, it's mega accountability too. It's okay, in the future, how can I make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yes. And it makes you, because now you're in the situation. Well, if it was all them that did it, then I'm just over here. It doesn't matter. But if I'm the part of the cause, or I'm part of the guilt, now I'm focusing on it, I'm thinking about it. So now I have the ability to think forward. How do I change the future results going forward and not have this happen again? But if you don't think it's your fault, or you don't have any tie to the blame, then you're not going to be part of the solution in the future.
Yeah, man. We talked about so much stuff today. Man, this is the longest podcast I've ever done.
Yeah.
But
like a Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah. To recap, we talked about how agents can build long-term wealth. We talked about the importance of conversations. We talked about the importance of building habits that are going to help you build long-term wealth. We talked about integrity and confidence. We talked about accountability. There's so many nuggets on this episode. I appreciate you so much for coming on, man.
That was good.
Man, this is so good. Where can people find you?
Easiest place just to find me on Instagram, just Connor_Steinberg. Yeah. And you can message me there.
Sweet. Yeah. And I'm going to send this out to all of our agents in the Wolfpack, because this is a game changer episode. Appreciate you so much. Yeah, and also you can find us on at Real Estate Virgins Podcast on Instagram. I'm at John Michael Perez. Follow our co-host Jordan Brown at Jordan Brown Sells ATX. We have his kid's birthday party in 30 minutes that I got to be at. That's why he's not here. But appreciate you guys. Hope you learned at least one thing, and pay the fee, which is share the show, guys. We appreciate you. We're doing this all for free. We just want to bring a massive amount of value to you guys, because we feel the more we give, the more good things will happen in this world. So we appreciate you guys. And one last thing, this is my saying: the agent that cares more wins more. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Let's go.